Hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo! Okay, everyone, we can breathe still. It's okay. It's okay. We survived. We made it through. Oh my goodness. Squeaked that one by. A 3-2 victory against the Seattle Kraken for the Bruins. Uh, oh my goodness. This game was not good for blood pressure or stress or nervousness or any of those things because this is a team that Boston should be handling pretty safely. The Kraken's record isn't great. Their goaltending's been letting them down a little bit, but that definitely wasn't the case in this game. We had Olmark versus Drieger, and it was a great back and forth first period. I thought the score could have been 2-2 after that first 20 minutes, but it ended 0-0. A little bit of housekeeping stuff for Boston. Eric Hall is still in COVID protocol, so Fogarty's still up with the team. There was a little bit of line mixing up throughout this game, but to start, Nosek moved up to line 2, and Fogarty was down 4. So that's a bit of a swap. I like Nosek on the second line. He got a little bit of a look in that in the last game against Dallas as they were getting blown out. And Nosek did look pretty good with Pastrnak and Hall. It's kind of hard to look bad when you've got two really talented wingers like that. But it's just not looking out of place, and I think Nosek did his job last night. Looked really, really good. Let me just jump right into the game. Boston were forcing the puck in dangerous areas of the ice, as were Seattle. Going through the crease a lot in this game as the play was opening up at times. I don't think either team would be super proud of how they played defensively, gave up a lot of high danger chances, but a reasonably close knit experience, close score, tight game, exciting to watch. Seattle going to power play pretty early. And one thing they would establish right from the get go is they would have a lot of presence in front of the net, looking for a lot of tips in front. And when they weren't set up in the zone, they were very dangerous off the rush. I think the Kraken looked the best when they could counterattack on Boston because there were times we were pinching up a lot and looking to get really aggressive in the zone. I found when Seattle were setting up themselves, it was a little bit lackluster. Their defense weren't getting as involved as they could have. There wasn't a whole lot of cycle game going on between their wingers and centermen. Um, Seattle have work to do. This is a very beatable team by Boston. So off that power play, looking for tips, parking men in front, looking for rebounds. That's something that wouldn't change throughout the whole game. But there were chances on both sides. Hull had a chance alone in front. The puck kind of rolls on him. Seattle come back the other way on a 2-on-1. And then Boston go the other way with Marchand, Smith, and McAvoy on a crazy 3-on-1 breakdown. There were breakdowns happening all over the ice in this first period. And that's kind of where I say it could have been a 2-2 hockey game after the first 20 minutes. The first line had great pace for Boston, putting the puck through the crease, danger, danger, danger. It's what we've come to expect from our first line, and should be dominant against lesser opposition like the Kraken. Against better teams, we're going to need to rely on more of our depth, getting our bottom 9 players really engaged in the game. Let's see. The first line were so dominant that at times they were making it look like a power play. Really, 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 really good. Both goalies have had to make tough saves. That was really, really big up to this point in the game. It was a bit cagey and open at times, right, where players are making mistakes, flubbing on pucks, and would just fly the other way in half a second or less. The goalie would be forced to stand on his head, crazy save, and then the puck would fly back the other way. As the period wore on, Boston started to build off the momentum their first line was giving them. But Seattle were looking very, very dangerous on that counterattack transition game. There was an offside they had, and then they really came on after that offside. I think they were a bit annoyed that it was called an offside. It was one of those ones where the player's trying to pick up the puck behind them as he's straddling the blue line and bring the puck in front, and maybe just stepped over a little bit. But they've got that weird rule now where you can have your foot elevated up off the ice. It doesn't have to be touching the ice as long as it's over the blue line. Whether or not it was offsides is up to the refs to decide, but all I know is Seattle came on much stronger in the last 5 minutes of the period. Neutral zone giveaway for Boston springs Johansson alone with 1:20 left in that period, and Olmark makes a huge save short side on him. If that puck goes in the net, it's a very, very different hockey game. That will do it for the first period. Start of the second, we'd get a pretty nasty, dirty hit by Yanni Gourde on Vakanainen. I've got to pull this up because it is something that I think we should have a look at. It was one of those hits where I've talked about it before. The player has to respect the numbers. When all he can see going into the boards are numbers, he really has to um, respect it. Hug the player in this situation. You really can't splat the guy into the boards like this. You're lining up, you see his numbers. This is before, this is after. There's no universe where you can draw back and drive into him here. No universe. Vakanainen does not come back into the game. Upper body injury, will be in concussion protocol, and there is a return to play checklist that he has to go through in order to come back to play at full contact. Unfortunate, really unfortunate. Was bloodied on the play. Not something you want to see in the game of hockey. Please get it out of here. It would be assessed a major penalty on the ice. They would review it and downgrade it to a minor. And I was watching the Boston broadcast, and they were very, very disappointed by this. Jack Edwards was saying, "If that's a minor, what even is a major boarding penalty?" And going at it a bit exuberantly, but he had a point. Donskoy and Gourde were the best two Kraken players, in my opinion. Very, very dangerous every time they touched the puck. There was a really, really nice play Donskoy made on a clear attempt where he gloved it, dropped it, and then was able to make a beautiful breakout play. I love those intangibles. McAvoy made one as well on the offensive blue line. I think they'll do a goal. But anyways, Boston are looking for second looks. Love the second look attempts. It's what's going to get you grindy goals. And it's responding to Seattle's play. They're clogging up the box a lot, looking for blocks and looking for tips in their own right. So we're doing some of the same, directing pucks towards the net with purpose. After Gourde leaves the box for boarding Vakanainen from behind, Fogarty and Lazar off the next face-off will ask him to answer for that, and they'll scuffle with him. They'll each take a man. Lazar takes Gourde, and Fogarty takes someone else. And I know some of the Bruins fans have been asking for that type of reaction from the Bruins. Unfortunately, we take an instigating fighting penalty for it. Lazar takes an extra 2 minutes, which is unfortunate, but I am okay with that statement as well. The refs are doing a pretty bad job of protecting our players. Twice now, once with Grzelcyk and once with Moore. Moore wasn't called at all, and then Pizzetta scored. That was nonsense. Once with Grzelcyk, and now again with Vakanainen. The Grzelcyk and Vakanainen ones were both majors that were downgraded, and then Moore's was not called at all, and Montreal scored right after they did it. It was nonsense. So their officials are not protecting our players, so sometimes we have to tell the other players that they're not allowed to illegally injure our teammates. I'm totally okay with that. Seattle will get an extra, or Boston get an extra 2, Lazar for instigating, so Seattle go on a power play. Boston had a great kill, but there are cracks showing in this penalty kill. I really like Lazar on the PK, but when we have Jake DeBrusk and Bleed out there, they both make a little error that a better team might punish us for. So it was an extra pinch by Jake DeBrusk he didn't have to do, and a hard out on the first time by Bleed. Can't let that puck stay in the zone. That's one thing Bleed's been a little bit lackadaisical about lately since coming back, is entries out of his zone have to be much harder. Donskoy skates so well, it looks like sometimes the rest of the Seattle team actually have trouble keeping up with him when he's got the puck. A little bit like McDavid or maybe even Austin Matthews. Boston would go on the power play as Johansson would go out for tripping. And then we get a very, very classic David Pastrnak power play one-timer from the dot. I don't know if Drieger even saw it. There might have been deflections in front, but it was just a really nice pass from Taylor Hall down by the post, across the ice, up to Pastrnak up on the top corner, rifles it in on Drieger. Maybe deflects off something and beats him near side over the shoulder. Drieger didn't react like he saw it at all. Here's where the game would start to get a little more choppy. So we had that right at the start of the second period. We had Gourde dump Vakanainen from behind, take a penalty, then come off and fight someone, go back into the box. Boston would go on the power play then, score, and then they would give up another penalty. Carlo goes off for interference as he tries to knock the puck with his hand, and the puck goes behind him. That's one of those plays where Carlo recognizes he's gotten beat and just has to take a penalty for it. That's like a soccer play where you prevent them from getting a clean breakaway. You just pick them. It's okay. It's unlucky that he swatted it and it went the wrong way, but he had to take that penalty, so I'm okay with it. Um, this would just continue some of the chippiness of the game. With 38 seconds left in the Carlo penalty, Jake DeBrusk would do a really dumb play and give it a delay of game penalty, unforced by himself, just backhand it up over the glass. Dumb play. Part of something I've talked about in the last review, where our backhands haven't been as good as they should be. At an NHL level, our backhands are not quite there yet. Need to work on that in practice. So Seattle got a 2-man advantage for 40 seconds. Boston are able to kill. I really liked the work rate by Nosek throughout this whole game. He would get rewarded as Boston go up 2-0, as Nosek works really hard to keep the puck alive twice in the offensive zone. Seattle are a bit unlucky as the puck kind of rolls up onto its side, and they can't clear it in their feet as Taylor Hall just stick lifts, bangs it home. Love it. Dangerous. I love how Taylor Hall is carving out a role for himself in front of the net. I like that dimension to his game. He's pretty good at getting stick positioning and being aware of when that puck is coming, having a nice little finishing touch towards the net. As the second period would end, I made a quick little note. I think that the fourth line had really positive energy after the goal, and it looked like Steen and Lazar swapped. I don't know if this happened before the end of the second period, but this is the first time I noticed it, where the third and fourth line right wingers had switched. That'll do it for the second period. Score 2-0 Boston. After the first period, got a little bit back and forth. We were a bit open on the back end. Second period got a little more chippy, where we got into a little bit of penalty problems, and the game started to get a little more cagey in that regard. Boston were able to carve out the advantage through good special teams and good forechecking. Players like Nosek and Smith getting really aggressive on the defenseman. Perfect. Love it. However, our third period would not be as good, especially the first 8 to 10 minutes of it. Donskoy would have a beautiful shot. The puck just, how to explain this one? It's a bit of a weird one, where there's a whole mess of bodies between the hash marks, right in the middle of the ice, and the puck just squirts out to the top of the circle. Donskoy rips it through 4 Bruins shirts and 1 Seattle shirt, finds a way through all of them, and I don't think Olmark saw this one either. I'm not sure if it was deflected or not, but it's one of those ones where the problem didn't happen in the middle and the puck squirting out. It was on the both second line wingers who had an opportunity to clear the puck on either wing and failed both sides. So passed on his side and Hall on the other. That was just a little bit of a defensive breakdown twice. Maybe once you can get away with it if you're defensively responsible and clog the middle area of the ice, block shots and stuff. Twice, no, definitely not. So, I was really surprised when the commentator said, this was like 40 seconds into the third period too, so this is great for Seattle, perfect response for them. But I was really surprised that this was the first goal for Donskoy in 44 games, because he'd been the best player on the ice. Him and Gord had been the best player for the Kraken. So the fact that he'd been on such a cold streak, was happy to see him break it, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him keep producing points. Continuing Olmark's strong performance, he had a really, really strong point blank save. Puck came from behind the red line right up to Yarncrook, like on his doorstep, and Olmark stood really tall. Great save. Olmark did a great job tonight. He said he wanted to get this start because he wasn't pleased with how he played the last game. Loved his answer. I love that fire and drive within the goalie to say, no, that wasn't my best. I know I can do better. I let you guys down. Let me prove it to you that, like, I'm still your guy. He did that tonight. The first goal was definitely not his fault at all. And he made some huge saves. The shots were 19 to 22 for Seattle at about 17 and a half minutes through the third. 17 and a half minutes left in the third. And then Seattle would go on the power play. Marchand would take an interference call as Seattle are trying to move the puck around the horn really well and look for tips in front. The problem I did have with their movement around the horn, though, is that there was an issue of pinching up. So when you are a defenseman on the power play, you are part of the offensive unit. You are essentially a forward at times because you're going to be left unmarked and have to take your space. So I think you know where I'm going with this when I say take your space. If there's a Seattle player down here, and these are all four of the Bruins defenders, look at how tightly they are. There's one Bruins skater has one skate. So out of 8 legs, 7 of them are below the hash marks. One of them is straddling the hash marks. When this puck gets passed back to the defender, I need him to be literally at the top of the circle. I need him to be really pressing and compressing Boston's box so that they can create an outlook pass to number 9 here and get a very clean open cage shot. What ultimately happens is your defenseman is standing back on the blue line, but look at how much space he had to take up. This is a big problem that has to be addressed with Seattle's offense. Their defense have to get more engaged than this because look at how much time Ullmark has to react to these passes. Instead of this pass coming 1, 2, it goes 1, 2, and a bit, bang. It just takes so much longer. Boston have time to readjust their shape. Look at how much better they are suited now to defend this puck moving across. Their box is very dynamic and adjusting because Seattle are giving them time to adjust. This is the period of 2 seconds. Power play 16. The puck's leaving this guy's stick on the wing here. It's at 14, and it's just now leaving. It's taking 2 seconds for the puck to get here and for the pass to start moving across when it could already be on his stick going towards the net. So that's something Seattle have to get better at. Must get better at. And it's free. It's free real estate. You're on the power play. Free real estate. I do like how Boston do set up their box, though. It's really tight, and it's usually very structured, where it bends and doesn't break, where if one side goes up, the other side pinches down a little bit, or is able to compensate over into the middle a little bit. I really enjoy how they set up their PK, because they have to practice against such a strong power play. So if Seattle are able to better facilitate that around the horn movement, they can keep Ullmark moving and set up more of those blindside shots that I just showed you. They just have to do it a little bit faster, a little bit more automatic, like it's second nature to them. Then Boston would have a series of neutral zone turnovers. I don't love this. And Seattle would punish with some corner-to-corner passes. So if I just pull up this picture again, what I mean by corner-to-corner passes is they're finding passes from this area of the ice all the way back out to the point, the diagonal point. That should hypothetically have to go through 2 bodies and shouldn't really happen. The fact that Seattle can find these are so dangerous for your goalie. You have to readjust from hugging your corner to standing out on a diagonal away from your post. Away, like far away from your post. You gotta stretch across the net. One of the hardest movements to do, in my opinion, for a goalie. And be in the perfect position to respond to the shot. And then be ready to move again, in case it slides back across. It's a tough one. So, those series of neutrals and turnovers and corner-to-corner passes by Seattle lead to a beautiful equalizing goal as an Appleton pick ricochets off, Larson point shot ricochets off McAvoy and an Appleton tip into the net. So it ricochets off an Appleton tip, hits McAvoy, and goes in the net. That happens with about 12 minutes and 30 seconds left in the third period, and Boston have now given up 2 goals and their entire lead in 7.5 minutes. Perfect time to call a timeout. Really like Cassidy's decision here to try and settle everyone down and then fire them back up and say, listen, this is it. We're about to go into the All-Star break. We are needing these points right now. Go get them. Unfortunately, right after the timeout, I wrote right here, need an answer. Boston had to drastically change how they were playing in this third period because Seattle were very hungry for it. Boston were flat. There was more bleh in the neutral zone for Boston. Giveaways, lackadaisical, not paying attention, not skating hard, issues up and down the board. Finally, we get some energy by our new fourth line. Steen and Bleed almost link up in the crease, and then Fogarty almost sneaks around Drieger's pad. It was one of those ones where he's just trying to wait him out and then tuck it into the last corner. Um, really nice patience for an AHL call up, and I really like the jump by Steen and Bleed. That's the type of energy I need from those players. When the rest of the team is in the dumps, I need players like Bleed and Lazar and now Steen to come out and give us the energy we're desperately looking for from these younger, enthusiastic players trying to get their roster spots this year and into the future. Jake DeBrusk is also on that list. But yeah, Jake DeBrusk is on that list. This energy by Boston would start to push the tide back towards their side of things, and then Giordano would take a bad tripping call in his own corner. A bit uncharacteristic for the captain. He trips Bleed as just Bleed is flying around that corner, just skating way too fast for him. Giordano sticks his stick out, trips Bleed. Perfect opportunity now for Boston to do what good teams do and convert on their opportunities. If we want to make it in the playoffs, our power play has to carry us. And it does in this game. Pastrnak scores his second power play goal of the night. Similar goal. McAvoy catches the clear attempt, passes it to Marchand in front of him. Marchand goes across the ice to Bergeron on a mini diagonal backwards. Bergeron just feeds it forward to Pasta. Pasta fires it home on the one time. It was one of those ones that went around Drieger's glove, so it like hit his glove and then rolled into the net. A bit of an unlucky one. Bit hard done by, but good teams find ways to get it done, even greasily. That was Boston's power play, and Pastrnak specifically, bailing us out for sure in this instance. We now have the 3-2 lead, and it's all about protecting it. So the new third line, I thought, did a really great job of cycling the puck, where Jake DeBrusk and Lazar now are working together, and I think that's a really interesting dynamic, where Steen and JDB are similar players with really, really hype north-south speed. Lazar is much more of a gritty, grindy glue guy, a lot like Craig Smith, where he's going to be in those corners working really hard to get the puck out. I think that actually suits Jake DeBrusk really well, where he can be a player who likes going first or second. He likes being around the puck's action. So if he's either has it on his stick or he's attacking it aggressively or looking for the setup for it. Where he can get lost sometimes, Jake I'm talking about, is when he's the third guy. When he's the guy hanging up high in the slot, when he's the guy trying to get open, when he's the guy just floating. Sometimes he can get lost in no man's land. I like it when he's driving really hard. I can force him to get engaged in the game then. So, that third line cycling the puck really, really well. Jake DeBrusk going first or second on the puck or attacking the puck. Really good. This starts to open up a bit off neutral zone turnovers. Scuffle with Marchand and the bench starts to get a rise out of the Seattle bench. When you're up a goal, you gotta be really careful how you push the other team down. You don't want to hit a nerve and spark them into getting a whole bunch of energy back. That happened a little bit with Marchand in front of the Seattle bench. Kind of happened a little bit in the Ducks game when Foligno and Gibson got into it in front of Anaheim's bench. The player going after the goalie is almost always going to give the goalie's team a big boost. Like, hey, we got to protect our goalie. That's our guy. He's our man. Like, protect him. Take care of him. Yeah. So this brought a bit of energy back for Seattle into this third period. Hall to Nosek had a nice one-time look on the second line, and that made the shots 26-26 at 2.5 minutes left in this third period. So we've got a bit of a barn burner coming down. Seattle would pull their goalie 15 seconds later with about 2.25 left. And this would be the start of the 6-on-5. I think Boston have done a really, really great job at playing down a man for most of this year. But it's been 5-on-4, right? When we've been on the penalty kill, our penalty kill's been really, really strong. I've been quite disappointed, actually, in our 6-on-5 play. I feel like when we have 5 bodies on the ice to defend, we should be able to do a much better job of establishing a breakout or getting the puck deep instead of just resorting to flipping it down and hoping for the best. Sometimes when we don't have the icing, I think when we don't have the icing in the back of our mind is something we can do, we panic a little bit, and that makes us second think sometimes, and then we end up making a wrong play or panicking or getting the puck stripped from us. I want to see us improve our 6-on-5 play to play like we do when we're down a man on the penalty kill. I really liked Coyle's play, though, on the 6-on-5. He battling really hard. He won 2 battles in the corner on the wall, deflection to McCann with half the open cage, and he fires it over. That was a big opportunity for Seattle to steal this game back and put it into overtime. Really, really, really important that he doesn't score that. That would ultimately close out the game. A little bit of a nail biter at the end, but Boston do get it done. Their power play definitely carries them through this one. I was really disappointed with how we came out on the start of the third period to give up those 2 goals in the first 8 minutes. Can't happen against better teams. They'll put the game away from there. A little bit of penalty problems, but I understand and respect going after Gord after he does an illegal hit on your player. I didn't love the extra 2-minute instigation penalty just because he did it right off the jump. If you say, hey, you got to answer for that hit, we're dropping them now, and then you drop them, there's probably not an instigating penalty coming. But that's okay. The reason why they went after him, I think is probably because some of the feedback they've been getting from externally is this team is too soft. This team doesn't protect each other. This team is blah, 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 blah. Those comments are irrelevant. Push them from your mind. But you do have to stand up for your teammates. I don't think there's anything else I want to talk about for this game. Seattle probably a little bit disappointed to not get a point after that comeback to 2-2 in the third. I thought they played really, really well, especially in that third period. A hard team to play against. And maybe in coming years, if they can get some draft picks with some real skill and talent, this team could be quite dangerous in the playoffs. Like, they've got a solid foundation, defensively built. They should have better goaltending than their stats suggest this year, and then a lot of tenacity on the front line. I like it. It's not a winning combination this year, but I think it could be a winning formula in the future. Boston Bruins going into the playoff break, or not the playoff break, the All-Star break. That's good for them. They could use a little bit of practice time, but coming out of that playoff break is crunch time. This is where we're really going to be tested and have to see, are we an elite team in this league? We're playing the Penguins, Hurricanes, Rangers, and Avalanche. Those are all going to be massive games. And we absolutely must get points from the Senators and Islanders. Senators twice and Islanders once. We have to. I really love this comeback, this rematch. We must win it. I hope we're very motivated for it. I think that's all I wanted to talk about. The table for the boys is pretty locked up. We're gonna be fighting for this wild card spot. It's okay. It's all about our form going into the playoffs, not about our performance in the regular season. Maple Leafs are looking really good lately too. They're scoring a lot of goals, a lot of pucks in the net. So that's all. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. I'll check you in the next one. Go Bees.